Warning: this story destroyed a marriage, friendships, and lives. If you're not ready for the truth, don't keep watching. Let's begin. Throwaway because my husband knows my main. Also, please don't screenshot this. So yeah, I'm that wife, the one everyone in this sub loves to hate. Before you sharpen your pitchforks, let me explain, or at least explain my version, because apparently everyone else thinks they're the main character in my marriage now. My husband, 37M, and I, 34F, have been together for 9 years, married for 6. No kids, 2 dogs, a mortgage we probably shouldn't have taken, the usual millennial starter pack. From the outside, we look fine. Friends say we're solid. His mom calls me a blessing, which honestly should have been my first red flag that something was doomed. Things started going wrong about 6 months ago, maybe longer, but that's when he noticed. He says I got distant. I say I got tired. Tired of being asked what's for dinner, tired of him sighing dramatically when I worked late, tired of pretending date night didn't feel like a performance review where I was always coming up short. The first sign of trouble, according to him, was my phone. I suddenly had a password. For the record, I always had a password. I just stopped telling him what it was. He says I started smiling at my screen. I say I was allowed to enjoy memes. Apparently not. Anyway, that's the setup. Happy-ish marriage, mild resentment fermenting quietly, me rolling my eyes a lot and him pretending not to notice. Nothing technically wrong yet. No cheating. No big betrayal. Just the slow, boring prelude before everything blew up way faster than anyone expected. Here's the thing I don't say out loud. I did start lying before I started cheating. Little lies at first, harmless ones, strategic omissions. Traffic was awful. My phone died. I told you about that meeting. Stuff that smooths life out, you know? Around this time, my husband started acting observant, which was new. He began asking follow-up questions, like a cop who just learned how to do his job from a podcast. Who were you texting? Why did you get home at 10 if you left work at 6? Why do you smell like a bar? First of all, rude. Second of all, I don't. That was one time, and it was because my coworker spilled a margarita on me, which is true, except for the part where it wasn't my coworker, and it wasn't an accident. Anyway, the real problem was that he got quiet. Not angry. Quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like you're being studied. He stopped touching me casually. No hand on my back when we passed in the kitchen. No half-asleep arm thrown over me at night. I noticed. I also pretended not to. Unexpected event number 1. He started going through a self-improvement phase. Gym at 5 a.m., protein shakes, new haircut. I joked that he was having a midlife crisis, and he laughed, but not convincingly. Turns out he was reading relationship books. I know this because later he would quote them at me like scripture, which I hate. Another unexpected thing. Our younger dog got sick. Emergency vet visit. Huge bill. Crying in the parking lot at 2 a.m. I remember thinking, wow, if he knew what I was doing, this would be so much worse. Instead of stopping, I doubled down. Stress makes me efficient like that. By this point, I was seeing the other guy regularly. I'll say seeing because that sounds softer than what it was. My husband didn't know yet, but I think his body did. He flinched when my phone buzzed. He started memorizing my schedule. He once asked me, very calmly, if I was happy. I laughed. Actually laughed. Like that was the funniest thing anyone had ever asked me. That was probably the moment everything tipped, even though neither of us knew it yet. If part 2 was the simmer, this is where it started to boil over in stupid, messy ways. Unexpected event number 2. My car died. Like dead. Wouldn't start in the grocery store parking lot on a Tuesday night. I called my husband because that's what you do when you're married and stranded, and he showed up faster than I expected. 10 minutes, no traffic excuse, no annoyed sigh. Just him, standing there with that tight jaw I'd started seeing more often. While we waited for the tow truck, he asked me where I'd been before the store. Casual, too casual. I said work. He nodded, then said, "That's weird. I drove past your office around 6 and your car wasn't there." I didn't miss a beat. I said I must have parked on the other side of the building, confident, almost proud of myself. He didn't argue, but I saw something shift in his eyes, like a file being renamed and saved. Here's where it gets ridiculous. While we're standing there, my phone buzzes. I glance down out of pure habit. Big mistake. My whole body reacted before my brain could catch up. Shoulders stiff, screen tilted away, thumb hovering like I was defusing a bomb. He noticed. Of course he did. "What's that?" he asked. "Group chat," I said instantly. "Work thing." Lie number. Honestly, I'd lost count. He didn't ask to see it. That was almost worse. He just turned away and started talking to the tow truck guy about transmission issues like this was the most normal night of his life. On the drive home, he didn't play music. He always plays music. The silence felt loud, heavy, like I was trapped inside it with him. I started rambling about the dogs, about the vet bill, about how tired I was, anything to fill the space. Unexpected event number 3. He reached over at a red light and took my phone out of my hand. Not aggressively, not angry, just calmly. I snapped, "What are you doing?" Way too loud, which immediately told on me. He didn't unlock it. He just looked at the lock screen, then at me. "I don't recognize that name that keeps popping up," he said. I told him it was a coworker. Then I said it was a client. Then I said it was a woman from spin class. I contradicted myself in under 30 seconds and still somehow thought I was being convincing. He handed the phone back and said, very quietly, "Okay." And that was it. No yelling, no accusations, no big dramatic moment. Just that word. Okay. That's when I realized the discovery wasn't going to be some explosive scene with screenshots and tears. It was going to be slow, methodical, like he was building a case instead of a fight. And I hated that way more than if he'd just screamed at me. After the car incident, I should have stopped. I know that's what everyone expects to hear. A moment of clarity, a vow to do better, blah blah moral awakening. Instead, I got paranoid. My husband didn't bring it up again. Not that night, not the next day. He kissed me goodbye in the morning like normal, asked if I wanted coffee, fed the dogs, which somehow felt more threatening than if he'd gone nuclear. I started watching him the way he'd been watching me. He began doing annoying little things, like syncing our shared calendar to be more organized, like offering to pick me up from work when he never did that before, like casually mentioning he might stop by my office with lunch one of these days. One of these days sounded like a trap, so I adapted. I deleted messages. I changed names in my phone. I started leaving my phone face down like I'd always done that. I even accused him of acting weird one night, which was honestly bold of me. "Why are you being so suspicious lately?" I snapped over dinner. "If you don't trust me, just say that." He looked genuinely tired, not angry, not smug, just worn down. "I'm trying to trust you," he said. "You're making it hard." That pissed me off, like irrationally, because how dare he make me feel bad while I was the one juggling stress, work, dogs, and yes, okay, a whole other man? I told him he was projecting, that maybe he was the one hiding something. Unexpected event number 4. He actually apologized. That threw me. I wasn't prepared for that. He said he'd been anxious, that he didn't want to lose me, that maybe he was overthinking. He hugged me. I let myself relax into it and thought, wow, I really am good at this. For about 3 days, things felt almost normal. I convinced myself I was in control again, that whatever he'd suspected had passed. Then I came home early one afternoon, unexpected event number 5, and found him sitting at the kitchen table with my old iPad. The one I forgot was still logged into everything. He didn't look up when I walked in, just said my name, calmly, like he'd rehearsed it. And in that exact moment, I knew the discovery phase was officially over. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't drop my bag like people do in movies. I said, "Why are you on my iPad?" Which, in hindsight, is a wildly stupid place to start. He finally looked up. His eyes were red but dry. That was unsettling. I'd almost prefer tears. Tears mean things are still fluid. This felt decided. "You left it synced," he said. "I was looking for the vet invoice." That part was true. He was looking for the invoice. He just found about 100 other things along the way. I tried to play dumb. I leaned against the counter like this was mildly annoying instead of catastrophic. "What did you see?" I asked, already planning how I'd spin it depending on his answer. He didn't take the bait. "I saw enough," he said. Then after a pause, "How long?" I shrugged. Actually shrugged. Not because I didn't know, but because admitting a timeline felt dangerous. Time makes things real. "It didn't mean anything," I said first. "Classic. Safe. Overused for a reason." He laughed. One sharp breath through his nose. "That's not an answer." I pivoted. "It started after things got bad between us." Another lie. Things weren't bad. They were boring. That's different. He scrolled on the iPad and turned it toward me. Screenshots, messages, dates, plans, inside jokes that weren't his. There was one photo I'd forgotten existed, and seeing it there made my stomach flip, not with guilt, but with irritation at my own sloppiness. Unexpected event number 6. He wasn't shaking. His voice didn't break. He was eerily composed. "I've been waking up at 4 in the morning for 2 weeks," he said, "running everything back, wondering what I missed." I felt a flicker of something then, not remorse, not love, annoyance, because now I was going to have to deal with his feelings, and he was doing that thing where he spoke calmly, like he was the reasonable one, and I was some problem to be solved. So I went on the offensive. "You invaded my privacy," I said. "You went through my stuff." He nodded. "Yeah, I did." No denial, no shame. That threw me off more than anything else. Then he said very softly, "I would have rather been wrong." And that, annoyingly, that landed harder than all the screenshots combined. Still, I didn't apologize. Not yet. I just stood there, arms crossed, heart pounding, realizing the confrontation wasn't going to be loud or dramatic. It was going to be long, and I was already exhausted. The confrontation didn't end in that kitchen. It just migrated. He asked if we could sit down, like we were about to have a budget meeting. I remember thinking how annoying it was that he still wanted things to be orderly. I sat anyway, mostly because standing felt like admitting something. He asked the same questions again, slower this time. How long? Who? Did I love him? Had I planned to leave? I answered selectively. I minimized. I reframed. I said things like, "It just happened, and I didn't think it would go this far," which are technically sentences but not actually explanations. Unexpected event number 7. Halfway through, he stopped taking it. Not yelling, just disengaging. He stood up, walked into the bedroom, and came back with a notebook, one of his, full of neat handwriting, dates, times, notes. He'd been tracking my behavior like a depressed Sherlock Holmes. He'd written things like, "She said she was with Jenna. Jenna posted from another state. Says she's tired, still up texting at midnight. Smelled like cologne that isn't mine." Seeing myself reduced to bullet points made me feel weirdly exposed. Not ashamed. Exposed. Like I'd lost control of the narrative. That's when I snapped. "You're being insane," I said. "This is obsessive." He didn't react, just looked at me and said, "I needed to know if I was crazy or if you were lying." And then finally his voice cracked, just a little. I kept hoping it was me. That should have been the moment I broke, the moment I apologized, cried, confessed everything. Instead, I doubled down. I told him he'd pushed me away, that he'd changed, that I hadn't felt desired in years. I weaponized every insecurity I knew he had, because I was cornered and angry, and honestly scared of losing the upper hand. Unexpected event number 8. He didn't argue back. He just closed the notebook and said, "Okay, I'm going to sleep on the couch." That night, lying alone in our bed, I felt something unfamiliar creep in. Not guilt, not panic, uncertainty. Because for the first time since this started, he wasn't chasing answers. He wasn't pleading. He wasn't trying to fix anything. He was withdrawing. And I didn't know how to lie my way out of that. The next few days were weird in a way I wasn't prepared for. No yelling, no ultimatums, no dramatic packing of bags, just distance. He slept on the couch like he said he would. I could hear him get up early, shower, leave. He didn't text me during the day anymore, not even the automatic home, check-in. I kept opening my phone expecting something, anger, demands, anything, and getting nothing instead. Unexpected event number 9. I missed the fighting. I hated that about myself. But the silence felt like being slowly erased. When he was suspicious, at least I mattered. Now it was like he was already practicing a life where I was optional. I tried testing the waters, small talk, complaints about work, a comment about the dogs being weirdly clingy. He responded politely, briefly, like a coworker you don't dislike but also don't care to know better. One night I asked if he was going to come back to bed. He looked at me for a long second and said, "I don't think that's a good idea right now." Not no, just not right now, which somehow felt worse. Meanwhile, I was still lying, reflexively. Even though the big lie was out, I kept up the smaller ones. I told him I'd ended things. I told him it was over before he found out. I told him there was no emotional connection. All false, all delivered with confidence. Unexpected event number 10. He didn't challenge any of it. He just said, "Okay," the same way he had before. But now it sounded final, like a period at the end of a sentence. That night, I overheard him on the phone in the garage. I wasn't eavesdropping on purpose. I was taking the trash out, but I caught my name. "I don't know what I'm going to do yet," he said. "I just know I can't pretend this didn't happen." Hearing him talk about decisions without including me made my chest tighten. I realized something then that I hadn't fully accepted before. I wasn't steering this anymore. Whatever happened next, staying, leaving, forgiving, walking away, it was going to be his call. And for the first time since this all started, I felt genuinely scared. Day 4 after the iPad incident is when things took a turn I genuinely didn't expect. Unexpected event number 11. He asked me to go to therapy, not couples therapy, his therapy. I booked an intake, he said over breakfast, staring into his coffee like it had personally betrayed him. "I need help figuring out why I ignored my gut for so long." Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say we need help. He didn't say you need help. He said he did. Like this was something he was cleaning up on his side of the street before deciding what to do with the house. That annoyed me more than it should have. I scoffed and said therapy was dramatic, that everyone cheats sometimes. Objectively false, but I said it with confidence, and that he was overreacting. I even joked that his therapist would probably blame his childhood. He didn't laugh. "I'm not going to let this turn me into someone I don't recognize," he said. Cool. Great. Love that for him. I, on the other hand, started spiraling, because suddenly the narrative in my head, this is messy but manageable, he'll cool off, we'll reset, was cracking. He wasn't trying to win me back or punish me. He was trying to understand himself. So I did what I do best. I created chaos. That night, I accidentally left my phone unlocked on the counter while I showered. I wanted him to look, to see the messages where I claimed I'd ended things, to see how sad and apologetic I looked, to see proof that I was, in fact, redeemable. He didn't touch it. I came out wrapped in a towel, heart racing, and he was just sitting on the couch watching something dumb on TV, dogs at his feet, phone nowhere near him. "Did you need something?" he asked. I said no and went to bed furious, because suddenly the power dynamic had flipped, and I hated how much I wanted his attention back. By the end of that week, I was unraveling in quiet, unattractive ways. I started waking up before my alarm just to check if he was still on the couch. He was. Blanket folded neatly, pillow fluffed, like he planned to be there indefinitely. That realization made my stomach drop in a way I refused to label. Unexpected event number 12. He stopped wearing his wedding ring. Not dramatically. He didn't toss it on the table or announce anything. It just... Wasn't there one morning while he poured cereal? I noticed immediately. Of course I did. I commented on it like it was a neutral observation. "You're not wearing your ring." He glanced down at his hand like he'd forgotten. Yeah. That was the whole exchange. I spent the rest of the day oscillating between rage and panic. Rage because how dare he make a symbolic statement when I was the one being interrogated. Panic because symbols mean decisions are forming. That night, I finally cried, alone, quietly, into a pillow like a teenager. Not because I felt bad about what I did, but because things weren't going according to the script I'd written in my head where I stayed in control. So I tried another tactic, honesty, or at least something that looked like it. I told him I was confused, that I felt lost, that I didn't know why I'd done it. All technically true, just conveniently incomplete. I avoided specifics. I avoided responsibility. I framed myself as a woman going through something, not a person who made choices. Unexpected event number 13. He saw right through it. "I believe you're confused," he said. "I don't believe you're being honest." That stung. I snapped back that he was being cold, that people make mistakes, that he wasn't exactly perfect either. I brought up arguments from years ago like they were relevant. I threw emotional spaghetti at the wall. He listened, then said, "I think I need some space." Not a break, not separation, space. He said he was going to stay with his brother for a few days. When the door closed behind him, the house felt wrong. Too quiet, too big. Like it already knew he might not come back. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't sure I wanted to keep lying. I just didn't know how to stop. The first night he was gone, I slept diagonally across the bed like that proved something. I didn't wash the sheets. I didn't change anything. I wanted the room to stay suspended, like if I didn't move too much, he'd walk back in and this would rewind. Unexpected event number 14. His brother texted me, not to yell, not to threaten, just, "He's safe. Please don't come over." That message did more damage than anything my husband had said. It made it clear this wasn't a dramatic timeout. This was a boundary, a real one, and I wasn't invited inside it. I told myself I wouldn't reach out. I told myself space was good, mature, healing. I lasted 6 hours. I sent a text that said, "I miss you," then deleted it, then sent, "Can we talk?" Then sent nothing for an hour, stared at my phone, and finally sent, "I'm sorry." That last one was technically true, but vague enough to be useless. He didn't respond to any of them. So I spiraled. I reread old messages between us from years ago, inside jokes, dumb arguments, plans we never followed through on. I convinced myself this proved we had something worth saving. I ignored the more recent texts where he was clearly trying harder than I was. Unexpected event number 15. The other guy showed up. I hadn't invited him. I swear. He said he was in the neighborhood, which was a lie because he lived 30 minutes away. I should have told him to leave. I should have shut the door. Instead, I let him in and immediately felt wrong about it. He tried to comfort me, said my husband sounded dramatic, said marriages bounce back from worse, said I deserved to be happy. All the hits. Normally that would have worked on me. This time, it just made me tired. I told him he couldn't stay. He looked genuinely confused, like I'd broken a contract he didn't know was temporary. When he left, I locked the door behind him and slid down against it, heart racing, realizing I'd just burned the last escape hatch without meaning to. I didn't feel noble. I didn't feel redeemed. I felt alone. And for the first time since the discovery, I started to wonder if my husband's silence wasn't punishment at all, but preparation. He came back 3 days later. No announcement, no warning. I heard the key in the door while I was standing in the kitchen eating cereal out of the box like a raccoon. I froze, spoon halfway to my mouth, heart slamming like I'd been caught doing something illegal, which emotionally, I guess I had. He looked different, not in a dramatic makeover way, just lighter, calmer, like he'd put something down while he was gone and hadn't picked it back up. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I said too quickly. Unexpected event number 16. He hugged me. Just a brief, polite hug. The kind you give relatives you don't hate but don't fully trust. It messed with my head immediately. I stood there, stiff as a board, then overcompensated by holding on too long. He gently pulled away. "I'm back to grab some stuff," he said. "I'm staying a bit longer at my brother's." "Oh," I said. Brilliant response. He walked past me like the house was already half not his, went straight to the bedroom, opened the closet, took a suitcase down. I followed him, suddenly chatty. I asked if he was eating okay, if work was fine, if therapy was helping. I even joked, bad idea, that at least the dogs were happy someone else was giving them attention. He answered everything calmly, kindly, like I was a person he cared about but wasn't entangled with anymore. That's when I panicked. I told him everything. Or okay, not everything, but more than before. I admitted it hadn't ended when I said it had. I admitted it meant more than nothing. I cried. Real tears. No theatrics. Just ugly, shaky honesty. Unexpected event number 17. It didn't change anything. He listened. He nodded. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he said, "Thank you for telling me the truth." Then he zipped the suitcase. "I'm not making decisions yet," he added, "but I know I can't unlearn what I've learned." That sentence hit harder than any accusation. As he walked toward the door, I asked him if there was anything I could do. He paused, thought about it. "Don't lie to me anymore," he said, "even if it makes you look worse." And then he left again. I stood there in the hallway, staring at the closed door, realizing something uncomfortable and new. For the first time, being honest didn't feel like a strategy. It felt like the only thing I had left. The house felt haunted after he left the second time, not in a spooky way, in a memory way. Every room had a version of him that wasn't there anymore. Him leaning in the doorway asking what I wanted for dinner, him complaining about the dogs hogging the bed, him laughing at dumb videos I made him watch. It was all still present, just inactive, like apps running in the background you can't close. I tried being honest, like he asked, immediately, brutally. With myself first, which was honestly worse. I wrote things down, not a confession letter, more like a damage report, what I'd lied about, when, why, how many times I'd chosen the easier path over the decent one. It was ugly, petty, unflattering, very me. Unexpected event number 18. I realized how much I enjoyed lying, not in a villain way, in a control way. Lying let me manage reactions, avoid consequences, stay comfortable. Telling the truth felt like walking into traffic and hoping people stopped. He didn't text. Not that day, not the next. I didn't text either. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But for once, I didn't want to break the only rule he'd given me. So I waited. On the third day, he sent a single message. Can we talk tonight? No emoji, no softness. I said yes. He came over after dinner, didn't bring anything, didn't sit next to me. We faced each other on opposite ends of the couch like this was an interview. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I didn't try to hide it. He told me therapy was helping him see patterns, how he avoided conflict, how he stayed quiet when something felt off, how he trained himself to accept less than he needed because it felt safer. Then he said something I wasn't ready for. I don't hate you, he said, but I don't trust you, and I don't know if I can learn how. I didn't argue. I didn't interrupt. I didn't deflect. I just nodded, because for once, there was nothing to spin. And that's when I understood something I wish I'd realized sooner. You don't lose a marriage all at once. You lose it in small, survivable moments you assume don't matter, until they do. That conversation changed the temperature of everything. Not warmer, not colder, just real. We didn't yell. We didn't negotiate. We didn't make promises. He didn't say he was leaving, and he didn't say he was staying. It was the emotional equivalent of being put on hold indefinitely, and I had no one to blame but myself. After he left that night, I didn't cry. I cleaned, aggressively. Like if the counters were spotless and the laundry folded just right, the universe might take that as proof I could be trusted with bigger things. I reorganized a junk drawer at midnight. I threw away expired spices. I avoided the bedroom entirely. Unexpected event number 19. I stopped talking to everyone, not because I was being noble, because I didn't trust myself not to lie. Friends would ask how things were, and I'd feel the reflex rise up, that instinct to curate, soften, rewrite. So I just disappeared. No brunch, no group chats, no venting. Turns out silence is easier when you've burned through your credibility. He came by once more that week to grab a few more clothes. This time I didn't hover. I didn't ask questions. I didn't offer updates about my emotional state like a progress report. He noticed. You seem different, he said, almost cautiously. I'm trying not to perform, I said before I could stop myself. He gave a small, sad smile. That tracks. We stood there awkwardly, the dogs pacing between us like they were trying to decide which pack they belonged to. For a second, I almost reached for him out of muscle memory. I didn't. Unexpected event number 20. He thanked me. For giving me space, he said. I didn't know how to ask for it without sounding cruel. After he left, I sat on the floor with my back against the couch and laughed. Just a short, bitter laugh at the irony of being thanked for not making things worse. That night, I finally admitted something out loud, to no one in particular. I didn't cheat because my marriage was broken. I cheated because I didn't want to deal with fixing anything, including myself. And that realization didn't feel like growth. It felt like being stripped of my favorite excuse. The decision came quietly, which feels unfair given how much noise led up to it. He asked me to meet him for coffee. Neutral ground, public, safe. I knew what that meant, even if I pretended not to on the drive there. I showed up early, picked a table in the corner, immediately hated it, moved closer to the window. My hands wouldn't stop fidgeting. I didn't bring notes. I didn't rehearse. There was nothing left to sell. He arrived on time, sat down, took a breath like he'd practiced this part. "I've been thinking about what acceptance looks like for me," he said, and I realized something uncomfortable. I waited. I didn't interrupt. That alone felt like progress. "I can accept that you cheated," he continued. "I can accept that you lied. What I can't accept is becoming someone who lives in suspicion just to stay married." That was it. No speech, no list, no dramatic line about self-respect. Just a boundary, clearly drawn. He said he wanted to separate, not angrily, not as punishment, as a choice. He already had a short-term lease lined up. He'd talked to a lawyer, not to destroy me, he clarified, but to understand logistics, dogs, finances, timelines, reality. I surprised myself by not arguing. Unexpected event number 21. I agreed, not because I suddenly became mature and selfless, but because for once I understood that fighting him wouldn't bring back the version of us I was mourning. That version depended on ignorance, and ignorance was gone. We talked for another hour. Practical stuff. Who would move what? How to tell friends? How to handle holidays? It felt surreal, like we were co-workers wrapping up a long project that failed quietly. When we stood to leave, he hesitated. "I hope you figure out why you did this," he said. "Not for me, for you." I nodded. I didn't promise anything. On the drive home, I didn't feel relief or devastation. I felt empty, not hollow, cleared out, like a room after all the furniture's been removed and you're left staring at the marks on the floor, realizing how long everything sat exactly where it was. And for the first time, I didn't reach for a lie to fill the space. It's been a few weeks now, still within a month of everything blowing up, which feels important because people keep telling me time will give you perspective, like time is some wise elder, instead of just more hours to sit with yourself. We're separated. Paperwork started. Friends know, sort of. The story changes depending on who's asking, which is a habit I'm still unlearning. He has the dogs for now. I tell myself it's temporary. I don't know if that's a lie or just hope wearing a trench coat. Here's the part that's weird to write, especially on a relationship advice subreddit, where I'm very clearly the villain of my own post. He's okay, not happy, not healed, but steadier than I've seen him in years. There's a calm to him now that I didn't give him space to have when we were married. We talked once more, briefly, about what he'd learned, not as a lecture, just as a statement of fact. He said he learned that ignoring discomfort doesn't make you loyal. It makes you complicit in your own unhappiness. That trust isn't just about believing your partner. It's about believing yourself when something feels wrong. And that staying after betrayal isn't the same thing as being strong, no matter how much the internet romanticizes it. His advice, if he were the one posting here, would probably be boring and devastatingly simple. Pay attention early. Ask the hard questions before you're forced to. And don't sacrifice your sense of reality just to keep a relationship intact. As for me, I learned I'm very good at lying when it benefits me. and very bad at understanding the cost until the bill is due. I learned that being bitchy and honest is still just being dishonest if the honesty only flows one way. And I learned that control feels a lot like safety until it suddenly doesn't. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I become a better person or just a more self-aware one. I do know this. I lost my marriage before I ever lost my husband, and by the time I noticed, he'd already started letting go. So if you're reading this and looking for permission to cheat or lie or rewrite your partner into the reason for your choices, this isn't that post. This is just what it looks like when the story ends not with a bang, but with a quiet decision to stop pretending. And yeah, that part's on me.